Welcome to a brand new episode of The 60-Second Car, the podcast that covers every single moment of the entire Fast and the Furious franchise. This is a podcast that I can't believe I just got that in that order with those words after not recording for I don't know, has it been 2 weeks?
It's been a minute, yeah. I honestly don't know. At least 2 weeks.
My name is Dan. You can find me on all the platforms, whatever. We'll do those maybe at the end, how we see it. I'm joined with my co-host with the most boast, Mr. Daniel.
Supreme me.
What time is it?
Oh, it's diesel time.
60-second
Welcome back to the 60-Second Car, the podcast that, well, we have some things to talk about. As we've mentioned in the intro, or maybe you skipped that because you're like, I just want to get into the meat of it. We were talking about how it's been a couple weeks and things have happened. I've been working a lot. Daniel and I both saw the same show on different dates at different locations and not together.
Oh yeah. I mean, the last part's sad, but the other parts are cool.
Yeah. So Daniel saw my favorite band in the world that is not Journal. So my two favorite bands, and they both have caveats, right? Journal is my favorite band that nobody's ever heard of, and Protest the Hero is my favorite band that's not Journal.
I will say I did not know they were your favorite band.
Yeah. I love Protest the Hero. I love them a lot.
They're very, very good.
Yeah, so I saw your text, I think, the morning after that you said you were seeing them and stuff like that. And I go, wait, because I remember reading the text. I was half asleep. I was passing out on the couch or something. And I was like, oh, I should check to see what their tour dates are and stuff like that. And then I passed out. And then I woke up the next morning and then reread your text because it was on my phone. And saw that you were seeing them as in currently when you were texting me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, wait a minute. So on my way to work at a stoplight, I looked up their tour dates, and yeah, they were in Sacramento one day. And then they were in LA the next day. And I was like, oh, the next day happens to be today. So when I finally got to work, I looked up dates and stuff like that. And I text Katie, I go, do you want to see a show with me tonight? And it eventually came down to, in my head, was, do I buy one ticket or two tickets? Because
sure,
I was going. I was definitely going. But yeah, it's probably not been said on this podcast, but yeah, Protest Hero is my favorite band. I love them a lot. I think Brody, the lead singer, is hilarious. I think he's extremely charismatic, and he's not ever one of those guys that's just awkward waiting for either the band to retune or to change guitars or whatever's going on between songs. He's sitting there making everybody laugh the whole time. So he's like doing like a 2-minute stand-up set and just having a good time being a goofball.
Yeah, he was doing straight up crowd work, but he was, when I saw him in Sacramento, he was responding to every buddy who yelled something at him at the stage. He popped out his monitor and be like, what did you say? Could you repeat that? Because anyone who says something shitty is not going to repeat it. But he's like, oh, what'd you say? Oh, no, we're not going to be playing that song. And kind of was being a funny dick. But at one point, he started talking about hockey because they're cliche Canadian sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And
we had a hockey talk as well.
He was like, oh, what's the nearest team here? San Jose Sharks? He's like, I don't like the Sharks, but they have a band who is now they play their song at every game or something. And he's like, we grew up with that band. They were a ska band back when we were a punk band. And we know them really well. And we think it's really cool they're getting together. But I don't know, fuck the Sharks. And then they just went whatever the next song was.
I think, yeah. So he mentioned the Sharks at our show too, because he was like, who's here? The Kings? Is that what's going on is that LA's team? And then pretty much everybody in the crowd that were hockey fans were basically booed because everybody loves to, and including myself, love to hate Los Angeles teams. You're either a diehard Lakers fan or you hate the Lakers. You're either a diehard Dodgers fan or you hate the Dodgers. And then there's not a bunch of hockey fans, but you're either a diehard Kings fan or you hate the Kings. It's kind of how Los Angeles goes. And he's like, oh, it was the Kings here, whatever. And then a bunch of boos happens. Boo, boo, boo. And then he's like, who else does California have? You guys got the Sharks? What? You guys haven't won anything in a long time. I go, as a lifelong Sharks fan, yeah, I've seen the Sharks get to the Stanley Cup Finals. I've seen them get to playoffs in the first seed. I've seen them make it so far for so many years, and they've never won. So they're definitely a heartbreaking team to follow. So I guess I get his whole thing.
Now, when he's shouting out all the California teams, is he conveniently forgetting about the Anaheim Ducks?
Anaheim. Nobody cares about them, I think.
I don't even 3 movies about them.
That's not them. They're not the same team.
And a TV show. There's a new TV show.
That's not them. It's not the same. No.
Look, that's publicity for them anyway.
It is, absolutely. But the Ducks were from weren't they from New York or something? Or Jersey? I think they're from Jersey because I think their rival team was the New York whatever team that were always dressed in black and they were the bad guys. And then there was the traitor that came from that team onto whatever the guys.
Are we back on the movie? I don't know if this is real life.
The movie. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, with one of the Sheen brothers, but is it Emilio Estevez? Is that the guy?
Emilio Estevez,
yeah.
Yes.
He's the only one that kept the name, right? That's their born name, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's them. They're on the other coast. The Anaheim Ducks, I don't know. They stole that name, I think. I think it's stolen valor.
I have to believe you. I don't know. I see hockey's something I feel like I really like, but I don't seek out. If I'm bored, if I go to a streaming service and it pops up at the top, it's there's a game happening. I'll put it on, I turn off the sound, and I'll pop in and out and just kind of look at it and be like, I don't really know what's going on, but everyone seems mad now. And then they fight. That
seems to be the case. I think a lot of people go through that because I've always liked hockey, but I don't watch it enough. Absolutely not. I've always liked the Sharks. It's fun to watch, some of the Canadian teams, even though I think most of them are not very good right now, except for maybe some of the East Coast teams. I don't know. But hockey's interesting because I think the power of who's good shifts every few years, unlike a lot of sports that kind of have the top teams for a while. I say that being a Golden State Warriors fan who have always been really good, or not always been really good. I shouldn't say that. When I was a kid, they were the worst team in the league. But yeah, anyway, sports. How
did we get here? Yes.
So we got here because Brody was talking about hockey, but he also talked about he said something like, we're Canadian, and then the crowd was like, woo, and he's like, I don't even know if I'm proud to be Canadian. He's like, blind national pride is stupid, so fuck it, and walked. Just kept talking. And it was and then that kind of reminded me on the drive home why I think I fell in love with the band in the same way that I'm a pretty big fan of System of a Down and a lot of the fuck the man bands that just talk about real shit, but in a really, really beautiful way. And Protest Hero is all about, trying to pretty much say fuck the man and how everything's fucked up. But Brody's got a very amazing voice and he sings it very well. And I think it's pretty cool. So that's sort of what I think attracted me to them in the first place.
So this tour they're on, I think still currently, is the Halloween is Forever or something like that.
Halloween is for always. Yeah.
For always. Yes. What were they dressed as? Because I had a Batman, a Robin, a Barbie, a second Barbie, and I honestly don't know what rhythm guitarist was. Ooh, fancy smanchy.
Yeah.
I almost got one of those, but as you can see behind me, I'm out of space, so I did not, and I regret it.
I mean, you can't see it, but I put it... Oh, you can't see it.
It's in another poster. I think that's the next step, just to posterception these guys.
I mean, it was signed. I was just gonna get the shirt because I got a Raven shirt and said Protest Here and stuff on it because Katie liked it. So I got that shirt and I was just gonna get that, but then I saw that the poster was signed and I was like, I might as well grab it. Costumes. Brody came out in Wednesday Addams type thing gig. He had a wig with some ponytails, and it was like messy ponytails or whatever, and then he was wearing like a buttoned up collared kind of dress top. It wasn't a full on dress, but it was like the dress top that you would wear to like school or something. The guitarist from Human Abstract, which I didn't know they picked him up for this.
Oh, okay. I was recently thinking about them. Anyway.
Yeah, he was they were like, "Oh, he's from the Human Abstract." And I was like, "Oh, I know that band. I know this guy then." He was like in a Thundercats sort of outfit. He was a cat. He had like a furry, like almost like an armor top with and then he had cute cat makeup. But they were also like, Brody was like, "Oh yeah, he's running like a really high fever."
Uh-oh.
So he's like not doing well, but he's feeling better today. Yay. Because he was like, he mentioned something about COVID, and he was talking about like how they hadn't toured in a while because of that and stuff like that. And he was like, "Nah, fuck COVID, we're fine." But then he followed it up with, "We're not COVID deniers. We know it's real because it's here on stage. We have it, so we know about it.
We know it very well."
I think it looked like the lead guitarist was like, he was like, 80s themed, but he looked like Shaggy in a way, like Scoob and Shaggy. And I couldn't really tell what the bassist and the drummer were dressed as. We were way in the back, and the stage wasn't very tall, but like we saw most of them. I think, first of all, I think I like them a lot too, because Jesus, every single one of those members are just so talented. They're just like, I can't. They're definitely a band when I listen to. I'm usually pretty good at picking up exactly what note they're playing, at least on the drums and the bass and stuff like that. I listen to their songs a million times. Half the time I'm like, what just happened? What was this bar? I have no idea. And I can't like delineate each note like I usually can. It's like I don't know, and they're just so good at it. I don't think they have their original bassist, which sucks, because there was a couple songs that the last time we saw them play, which we'll talk about in a second, they played one of my favorite bass songs, because it just it slowly leads into a little bit of a bass solo, and it breaks with the bass solo is really nice. I was like, okay, I guess they're not going to play that anymore because they don't have their original bassist, and maybe he wrote that part pretty heavily and they didn't want to, have somebody else play it. But I was also pleased to know that like they played a bunch of different songs from all over the place. Even looking at their set list, there was like 2 or 3 new songs, really.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, they know that people like Fortress.
Yeah. They know people like Fortress, but they didn't play Sequoia Throne, which is their second most popular song. And I was sitting there because I went to a friend's birthday party the next day, and I'd mentioned it to him, and he's like, I showed him the set list. They're like, "Oh, they didn't play Sequoia Throne." I was like, "Yeah, I'd feel like a band gets pretty tired of playing their most popular songs pretty often." But they played Blood Meat, which is their favorite, which is their most popular song, and I guess you can't skip that because that would be pretty bad.
Well, I almost feel like they're playing that on this tour because on every stop, I'm sure it happened at yours, Carson from the Callous Cowboys comes up and does one of the choruses.
Yes.
So
yes.
it might be honestly just for him and just for that moment, because they play that song for what, 20 years now.
What, Blood Meat?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good song. So the first time I had ever seen Protest Hero, I think was probably the first time you saw them too.
That's the only other time I've seen them.
So yeah, okay. That was the only other time I've seen them too. So Daniel and I, we had known each other at that point, but we did not go to the show together. But we saw each other there at this weird nightclub in downtown Sacramento that I had never been to.
It was called The Assembly. And it then became another venue, and now I think it's just a nightclub again, or it's nothing. But yeah, it was a very strange place to play a show of any sort.
Yeah, it was weird because it was weird that they had a stage, I guess, because it was just a nightclub where people went and got drunk at and stumbled out of the bars, out of that bar specifically at like 2 a.m. But yeah, we saw them there, and it was a completely different show. Like, they were obviously, I mean, it was 2012, so it was 11 years ago. And they were they had done like 3 albums since then, 3 or 4 since then.
I believe so, yes.
So they had like 3 albums to play, and they had a much more, I think, choreographed set. And it felt more choreographed. This show was like, we're just gonna have some fun and just blast. It's Halloween, fuck it, we'll go. And I think that's exactly what we got. We had a good time. Katie and I are old, so we left like right in the middle, I think, of their first encore song. They did 2. And so we just left right in the middle of the first encore song. We're like, we're going to go before it gets too crazy.
That is a Daniel move. Absolutely. I think I left before that. I think I was still in the main set, and they just played like a couple of my favorite songs. I'm looking at the set list now. Mm-hmm. Maybe like right before Limb from Limb. I was like, I think I'm okay. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, I had a great time. Yeah, I got tickets to see them because like I thought the openers were solid. I think Moontooth is really good. I've seen the Callous Cowboys. Yeah. I've now seen the Callous Cowboys twice this year, and
really,
it's funny because they opened for Rolo Tomasi in Sacramento when they were on tour, and then I saw they were added to this bill. I was like, all right, cool, I'll get a ticket. And then I'm watching Protest kind of is like bonus for the night, and I was like, oh, that's right, I love this band.
Yeah.
This is great. I'm having a wonderful time.
Yeah. They're really fun.
Still, I got sleepy.
Yeah. I got to work probably about 8 a.m. After my, I leave at 7 a.m. It's like an hour drive. Got to work there, bought the tickets, and then I did like 2 hours of overtime that day. So I had worked for, 10 hours. And by the time we got there, I came home, picked up Katie, and left. By the time we got there, I think we had missed the entire opening band. I don't know who it was. In fact, I don't even think Brody knew who it was. I think the new guitarist, who's from LA, apparently it was his friend's band and stuff like that. So they were just like, okay, you guys open for the touring bands, and then I guess they had a good time. So yeah.
So I was looking at their lineup on Wikipedia, and it's a mess. Technically, there are only two members now. It's Rhodey and Tim, the rhythm guitarist, and then they have some guy named Cam McClellan, who's been on and off since like 2013 as a session musician, as well as lead guitarist Luke Hoskin. But then their touring guys, you've got Henry/Hank from Human Abstract on bass, Ben Davis, who doesn't have anything that links to anything, on lead guitar, that might also be a Human Abstract fella. And then the drummer from Mandroid Echo Star.
Okay.
So it's just like 2 guys, and they hired 3 guys to go out on the road with them. And yeah, they're, the band timeline thing. It's all colorful. It's all over the place. And there's like chunks up and down, going up and forth as people come and go. And it seems hard to be in a band like that. But I guess if you're just hiring people to play the notes, they know the notes.
They're very good. I mean, they played from what I could tell, they played all the notes, which was nice. Interesting. He only introduced the guy from Human Abstract. So, maybe they picked him up for like part of the tour or something. But yeah, it's a good show. I really liked Moontooth. I've never seen them before or heard them before. Very, very good band. The Dallas Cowboys, who they're named after, the Dallas Cowboys, were fun, but they were very much like he was getting, I guess his name Carson. He was getting very impatient, seemingly, with how much the crowd was not moving to the point at which he was making fun of the LA crowd for not being as lively as the Sacramento crowd, because that's despicable.
So we got that too. I think ours was Portland, but he went on this. He threw a fit about people not responding the way he wanted. He said, "If you guys don't fucking move, I'm never gonna play here again." where are we even? We're not Sacramento. We're in Roseville. Fuck Roseville. And then like the entirety, like in between Callista Boys and Moontooth, there's one drunk guy who like, I understand people can be proud of whatever town they live in, wherever they're from, wherever they grew up. It seems weird to have like town pride of Roseville because it's like a suburb of Sacramento. It's touching. I don't know. If someone's called me Sacramento and I was here in Davis, it's happened. Sure, whatever.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That guy's like, he's talking shit about Roseville. Fuck those guys. They suck. And anytime someone on stage was like, how about the Cal Stab Boys? He's like, no, they're bad. they talk shit about Roseville.
That is weird. That is quite strange. Dude, the people I know from Sacramento aren't even proud to be from Sacramento, so I don't know, man.
Right now, there's some town pride going off because the Kings are decent and they have a cool flashlight, and everyone's excited about it when it turns on. So
yeah, I do have a friend that still lives in Midtown, and he often takes a picture of the giant flashlight. Yeah. Yes. For those who don't know, we're talking about every time the Kings win, the Sacramento Kings NBA team, the Kings win. They out of their pretty new, I think it's one of the newer arenas. Still, there's a giant, super huge light purple beam that shines up in the air that you could see from like probably not very far away because it's probably super smoggy there and there's probably gets diffused through all that, but you can see it pretty far away. I'm just curious how much energy that sucks out of the grid.
I wonder what happens if they're playing during the day and they win.
I'm sure they still shine it. Who knows?
The crowd is outside, like, light the... Is the beam lit? The beam might be. I don't see that.
That's kind of all Sacramento has. I didn't mind living there, but like, it was, it was gross and weird at certain times.
Sure.
Yeah.
Gross and weird at certain times? What? Go. No,
nothing. We were gonna talk about Call of Duty stuff. We'll talk about that maybe in the next episode. This episode, because we're already 22 minutes into this thing, and we should talk about what is actually a pretty impactful scene that we have in this minute. We're pulling up to Dom's garage, where we I don't think we hear the most famous line, but we're getting ready for it. We pull up to Dom's garage, in which it seems like they carpool again.
Oh yeah, I usually clock that. For some reason, I didn't.
I think they're in one car. I don't see another car. Oh, he says,
I want to show you something, and then they leave. So I would assume
he also doesn't have a car yet. So I guess there's that. Let me full screen this. Bam. Yeah. So they open. This is a pretty iconic sliding of the door opening. As we see this, and then we're opened up into this history of the Toretto family, and there's trophies everywhere. There's old helmets, assumedly it's his dad's, posters, pictures, looks like some car manuals, gas tanks, stools, chairs, all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of things happening here. And we pop in and we see the iconic, which we haven't seen anything American Muscle yet for Dom until this moment, because he's been driving an import for this whole time. And I also mentioned, I think at the beginning of this movie, that I don't think we ever see his car again. And this might be the first and only second time we get to see it.
The red car behind him?
The red car, yeah.
I mean, as we've been going through this, there's moments that I completely forgot about that are coming back to me. So I don't doubt you. But like, also, it might just show up at Race Wars. How does he get there? Does he take the muscle? I don't remember.
I don't remember it showing up at Race Wars, but it might. Because there's only 2 races that we see, I think, at Race Wars. I think it's Letty's race and then Jesse's race. But yeah, anyway, we get to see the American Muscle that he's never driven. Well, you don't like this?
Yeah.
You don't like that this looks a little bit like that Fast 37 or whatever that you sent me?
Oh my god, yeah. God, that's terrible. Listeners, go to the video and wow, just the screen
this will
grab.
probably be the
Again,
thumbnail. Yeah.
Perfect, love it. But yeah, this is the charger. This is the thing I have a Lego set of for
Yeah.
Dom. Um,
Which he builds
it,
he must build like 10 of them throughout the franchise, right?
oh yeah, because this one gets wrecked, doesn't it?
They all get wrecked. Every single one of them does. Like, there's not, and I don't think a Charger survives one of the movies, which is why it's like, why does he keep getting the same exact car over and over again?
I mean, I'd say it's for his dad, but at this point, if you're going to keep wrecking your dad's car, it doesn't seem that respectful.
Yeah. Yeah, because this doesn't even make it past the first time he actually drives it. But it looks cool, right? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's got a very big motor that you can't really see over that well. It seems like creates a blind spot.
I mean, it is a drag car, right? It's not meant to be driven on the streets, and yet that's pretty much exactly what happens. And they're checking it out, and I think this is where Brian says like, as they're walking through, and Dom's giving a little tour of the car, or whatever, introducing it, and he talks. It's like it makes 9 seconds flat on the track or whatever. And then that's where Brian's like, well, what's your best time? He says, I've never driven it. I'm afraid of it. He's looking down.
Shit out of me.
Yeah. Scares the shit out of me. I think, do I have, I didn't get I don't think it looked good. I was going to get a screen of him pointing back at the back wall saying, that's my dad. That's my dad.
Yeah, the dad stuff almost comes out of nowhere in this scene. Like the next few minutes it goes through a lot of stuff with Dom, and the music might start here, but I feel like even the composer who's doing the scene doesn't know what the tone of the scene is supposed to be, because like
sure.
And this is the when it starts to get weird, because like, yeah, the dad story. Oh, that's my dad. I love my dad. Strap in.
Yeah, it gets real heavy. Yeah, well, I mean, we have to think about the fact that he brought him here after they talked about him and Mia going out on a date, right? So
Sure.
Is this some sort of sentimental thing that he's bringing Brian closer into the family via this, or what exactly is happening? Because we don't even really know if the rest of the team has gotten this tour. Seems like very familial.
There's something kind of clicking with me about this scene now. That it's going to come up more in future minutes, I guess. But this scene could be him welcoming him in to, like, I'm accepting you, date my sister, etc. But this also could be like in the next minute he describes a violent act. So it could be like, I will also black out and hurt somebody, which he's already alluded to that anyway. So
as I
this
watched
could be twofold.
Yeah, exactly. As I watched this preparing for this recording, I was when he says that, and I'm thinking exactly like how we got here, because you kind of don't, if you don't pay attention to it, it kind of just flashes. You're like, you don't really know why we're here. But when you think about it, like the reason that they came here was because they were gonna go out on a date, right? So yeah, it sounds like it's one of those big brother, I'm gonna beat your ass kind of things, right?
But it starts in a weird way where he's like, I might beat your ass. It could be your brother-in-law, but also I'm afraid of this car.
Yeah.
So what's the tone? I'm vulnerable and afraid.
Yeah, he did start it off being vulnerable, didn't he? That's not a big brother move. That is interesting. All I know is I'm thinking to the next couple of minutes, and Brian wears big t-shirts that hide exactly what he looks like underneath. Foreshadowing for future episodes. But yeah, there's just this, he starts to walk off into the shadows as he's telling this story about, he remembers the guy's name, everything about it. He remembers the fact that I guess he just starts the story here. This is the end of my screen, so I think he starts the story in this minute, but he doesn't even get into the meat of it. But I mean, he's got a bunch of stuff in this garage that is quite literally held up by slats, it seems.
Yeah. For as nice as the car is and nice as some of his equipment is, feels like this should be a little insulated or something. And all these like family heirlooms that are just kind of exposed to the elements. So it's impressive they're in as good a condition as they are.
Yeah. It's possible that he only used this garage to a point because it's just where his dad's stuff was. And then he got his own garage somewhere else. But yeah, it kind of makes you think about, they got all this stuff here, but it just never being used. Like, what's going on? But I guess they do in future movies, like way future movies, they kind of work out of this. It makes me want to go back and look at, like, did they fix it up at all? Is it at all better?
In 10, when they're having the meeting in there, did they put up the same shitty slats after repairing the? Well, when the house got blown up in whatever one that was, did they also blow up the garage? Or
yeah, that's a good point. That's a good question. Like, was
the garage completely free of it? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we also. Do we also see in Fast 10 that there's a back alley in this place that we never see until Fast 10? Is that this house that they go into the back alley where Little B and
oh yeah, when they escape in his fucking, like,
it's like Jeep
Geo or whatever.
Yeah. It's a small car with like a big canoe on it, right?
Yeah. What the hell is that? Because there's not an alley behind this place. I don't think.
Absolutely not. But it's either here or it's got to be here, right? Because it's either here or it's Mia's house.
Street.
It's got to be here, because if it was at Mia's house, we'd see there would be more mention of Brian being around, I think.
Yeah, because where the hell's Brian and all that stuff? He's at home, but now he's not home.
No, he's not home. We're at the home. Oh my god, I did tell some friends about this podcast that we do and how silly it is. And every time I tell somebody about the podcast, they tell me it's a great idea. I can't tell if they're being nice.
Yeah, I had that recently too. I told my sister-in-law's boyfriend about it. He kind of gave me a weird look, and then he's like, we had the conversation that I always seem to wind up having, which I don't want to lead with it, but he's like, how many hours is that? It's like, because we were trying to convince him to watch all the movies, and he's like, hey, what if we watch them all in one day? I'm like, It's like, all right, well, if we're going to watch all 11 movies, he's like, 11? I thought there was 10. I'm like, don't get me started, but there's also 2 shorts. He's like, oh, it's 23 hours of just movies, and like times that by 60, and he just kind of stared at me. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing a podcast. So, Grant, if you're listening, welcome to the family.
Yeah, absolutely. That the time came up, the confusion of everything, and then we got into the conversation of, yeah, by the way, Brian's still alive in the movies canonically. Mm-hmm. That's weird. And I don't know. There's lots of things going on. As everybody listening to this probably already knows, we're just rehashing, things you already know. And, well, we appreciate you for listening through all this. We're going through minute by minute. I will say that, like, I took a couple weeks off. I took these last 2 weeks and kind of was pretty non-existent from, like, the streaming world and streaming video games and stuff like that. And we had some people that were like, oh, that gave me time to catch up on the 60-Second Car podcast. And I was like, did you like it? They're like, oh, we loved it. And I was like, all right, cool. Again.
What if the next thing was like, I got cut up and I have to finish because the voice in my head tells me I have to. I'm having the worst time.
Oh, my God. If you started this podcast and you're telling yourself now you have to finish it, that's a commitment. We got a long time. We got a long road ahead of us.
And you're correct.
And you're correct, yes. Please do not bail on us now. That was, I didn't even say what minute was, I don't think, but that was minute 57 of The Fast and the Furious from 2001. Do we have anything else to touch on for this movie? Or for this minute?
Negative.
Next minute, we're going to jump into the story itself. But with that, I want to say thank you to everybody who has been listening and watching, everybody who's liked the videos, everybody's left comments and reviews and all that stuff. We do see it. I appreciate it. Again, yeah, thank you so much for leaving comments. It really, like, is funny. Some of you guys are pretty funny in the comments, and just, you don't really mention the episode at all. You just talk about something about family, and I think it's fantastic. You can catch us on danotage.tv/60secondcar. Where you can get all our deets and details and links and all that stuff to where to follow us and where to follow the podcast. And then keep doing what you're doing. With that, We'll see you next time.
Family.